Hi, this is Eric from Longbox Review at longboxreview.wordpress.com, where we review comics past and present. And today I've got an old and very good friend of mine who also is a longtime comic fan and publishes his own reviews of comics on the interwebs. So say hello, Travis.
Hi there, everyone.
So tell us, Travis, what pimp your review site.
Pimp my review site. um, I review things at Oddfellow's Thoughts. It's Oddfellow's Thoughts at WordPress.com. Hopefully, I'll get back to being a little more consistent. Lately, I haven't been so consistent on doing reviews and whatnot. Always reading comics, but not always reviewing them. But I hope to get back on track.
So how long have you been reading comics? Well, reading and or collecting comics?
Oh, geez. Well, like a lot of us, I got comics when I was, really young. It's the only thing I would read as a kid. So of course my parents bought me lots of comics because, gosh, it'd be nice if their kid could read. Really, I got serious about collecting comics in the mid to late '80s. Collected for a number of years and then took a hiatus when, well, the real world took most of my money. But and then here in the last 5 or 6 years, I've gotten really back into collecting comics again and kind of picked up the stuff in between.
So the mid '80s, that's kind of our golden age, isn't it?
Oh, definitely.
I don't know what.
Remember back.
Yeah. I don't know what do they call that? In comic, you have the comic book terms. They have the golden age, the silver age, the bronze age. I think the bronze age was pretty much up to that point where we were
right.
What we consider our golden age. So what do they call that age? Do you know?
In between, doesn't it? Because then it becomes what? Modern. I mean,
but modern that's always a sliding scale, right? Because right now is the modern age.
Okay, so what are they calling that then?
I don't know. I think maybe they're calling it. It actually depends on which comic book database service you use, but the one that we use, Stash My Comics, right? Is that what they call it?
Yep.
Yeah, they need to sponsor this. I think they call it the Copper Age.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too when I was just cataloging some of my stuff.
So what comes after Copper? Because at some point, so whatever the Copper Age ends, or maybe it's already ended. I'm sure it is because we're right now in the modern age, right? But then as the modern age scale moves forward in time, what's say, I don't know what the Copper Age is, but let's say like the 2000s is like the next age, right? So you got gold, silver, bronze, copper, nickel, zinc? What are they going to call it? I think this whole metal thing is really dumb.
Yeah. Well, I guess I've never really, other than knowing that they're out there, I've never paid attention. Where do those breaks actually happen at? Do they actually happen in a decade, or is it when there's a fundamental change in how comic books are portrayed or written or whatever?
It's the latter for the most part, right? Because the golden age, the silver age started in 1956. Everybody just kind of agrees that 1956 is the start because that's when I was going to say the modern Flash, but the Barry Allen Flash appears, right?
Right.
So 1956 is the start of the Silver Age. And then the Bronze Age starts pretty much, I'm thinking around 76, 77, something like that.
Why?
And I don't know. That's a very good question.
So, the next question is so, what if it's something that the creators are doing or the publishers are doing that makes the change, and it's not based on years or whatever, then I guess you can't call an age until after it's passed, and you can go back and look at it and go, oh, look, comics fundamentally changed for whatever the reason, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen anything that's been, maybe I'm biased. I haven't seen anything that's been that earth-shattering since.
Oh, wait, here we go. I Googled it. According to Wikipedia, the Bronze Age of comic books, blah, 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 usually said to run from 1970 to 1985. Oh, okay. So what happened in 1985? That was big.
85, I think. because 85 is before I think the really big things started, in my opinion, started happening. Because 85, that's before like, Watchmen and all that kind of stuff, right? And Dark Knight. When did those come out? I can't remember.
I think you're right. I think that 85.
See, that's where I would say the fundamental change is suddenly we went from bright shiny heroes to suddenly everybody was dark and depressed and cool.
Right. So 1985, 1986 is according to the Wikipedia is the end. At this point, DC Comics completed its special event Crisis on Infinite Earths, and then we get the whole sort of reboot of the DC universe. Also, Watchmen came out about that time. Dark Knight Returns. That was 86.
Yeah.
So, and then at Marvel, I guess if you want to consider this, it was. Can you guess which big event book they had about that same time?
Secret Wars 2?
No, the original Secret Wars.
That was at the same time, really.
86, yeah.
Wow. I mean, obviously I collected all those. And liked them, but
okay, so
that to me seems there's such a difference between the two.
Between Secret Wars and Crisis?
Yes.
Yes, I know. I don't even consider Secret Wars being some sort of pivotal moment for Marvel Comics.
No. I mean, it was fun.
Really? You like that?
Secret Wars?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. But I'm a sucker for any comic that gets 50 or 60 heroes and villains all in the same place at the same time. To me, that's just fun. So for that aspect, yeah. I haven't gone back and read it. I was just looking at it thinking, hey, I should go back and read this.
Secret Wars?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because, I mean, I haven't read it at all since it came out. Have you?
No.
You didn't like it then?
I did not like the art.
Yeah.
I can't remember who was doing the art on that series now, but I think it was I don't remember. I'd have to look it up, but
you weren't interested in that.
Not really.
Did you get that whole series?
Oh yeah, and I got Secret Wars 2.
Right.
Like a fool. Because that was awful.
Okay, now Secret Wars did change some stuff because that's when they gave Spider-Man the black costume and stuff.
Oh sure.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's important. And that changed a lot.
And
changed a lot at Marvel.
And the Thing came out of it with his own series, and he was on some other world, and that was really good.
I don't remember that.
I thought you got that one.
The Thing? Oh no.
Oh, maybe that was Greg.
It had to have been.
Somebody was collecting that, and I read them all at the ones that were out at the time.
Wasn't me. I don't collect stuff that's Fantastic Four. Like I said, I have one issue of Fantastic Four.
Okay, hold on.
Like I said on Twitter.
Why do you not collect anything having to do with Fantastic Four?
I don't know. It's nothing against Fantastic Four. For whatever reason, I don't. I didn't go see the Fantastic Four movies either.
You haven't seen the Fantastic?
No. I saw one of them because it had Jessica Alba in it. But
okay, see, I was just gonna say that's the reason I watched it.
Yeah, but she's a blonde in that, and that's just no fun.
Are you kidding me?
No. At any rate.
Her as a blonde? That is awesome.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the Bronze Age. So then I don't know what the hell.
So there's nothing after the Bronze Age.
Well, according to this article on Wikipedia, then we have the Modern Age. So I don't know. So 86, 87-ish till 2011? I don't think so. That seems like an awful long modern period.
What's happened to have changed it to be something else? Because they're saying in Wikipedia, they're saying there was some significant stuff happened. They're listing Crisis and stuff as being the game changer. What's been the game changer now? You can't tell. You know why? Because there's an event book all the time. So everything's changing all the time. So as far as that goes, if it has to do with the two big companies doing something dramatic, where's the litmus test for that? There isn't one because they just go from one thing to the next thing. My opinion, obviously. But so I don't know where you're gonna draw a line in the sand at and say, ooh, it's now it's the modern age, and all that stuff before it was, the nickel age, the paper age, or whatever.
The paper age. It's all the paper age. Well, except for
I missed that chunk of the '90s, and I don't know. Hearing from some people, it wasn't necessarily in some ways a positive time for comics. So
no, it was not.
it created all those kind of bubbles and whatnot. And
Okay, so when did you approximately stop reading comics for an extended period?
I think I stopped in like 91 or 2. I actually have to go back and look and see for sure when it is that suddenly all of my collections take a break.
And when did Image Comics form? Wasn't it about that same time period?
When Image Comics, I was not collecting comics when Image appeared. So I had to have been right before that. Because, I mean, it wasn't like, I mean, I quit collecting comics, but it wasn't like I still didn't go into comic book stores. I remember going into a comic book store and there suddenly being this new company that I hadn't heard of.
Yeah, it started in 1992, which means they had stuff coming out either late 92 and then 93 and on. So yeah, you just missed their launch.
That's not a bad thing though, right?
No, not the early stuff. Although I hear that who does which is it Silvestri that does the green guy, Savage Dragon? No, I'm sorry, that was Eric Larson.
That's Eric Larson. Yes,
all I've heard is that out of all of the books that launched Image, that Savage Dragon was the best one, and it's still being published to this day.
Yep.
Of course, Spawn is too, but without McFarlane being directly involved in it, at least for a long period of time. I think maybe
and it's
he was
changed.
back in it.
I mean, it's changed all the time too, right? I mean, it doesn't spin off lots of weird little things.
Oh yeah.
So it's never really the.
So you missed that whole '90s.
Yep.
Oh wow.
All the artists deciding they wanted their own thing, and right, because isn't that where Image comes out of? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they left Marvel and
I missed all of that. And I'm trying to remember right now when it was that I started picking up when I started collecting again. I cannot remember. I'd have to go back and look. It's all a blur.
Well, you'll be able to figure that out once you get through all of your cataloging of all your comics, right?
Yeah. Should be able to, yeah.
You know, the worst thing about the whole Image and the artists kind of having, you know, the pendulum kind of swung in their favor as far as influence on comics in general, was that because Image was selling like hotcakes, everything that the guys at Image were doing were just selling like crazy, right?
Right.
So, of course, Marvel and DC went, how can we tap into this? So they get artists or tell their existing artists to start drawing like the guys at Image, and you get a bunch of books that are coming out that, I mean, you can really tell, at least I can, if you pick up a comic from the 90s, you don't even have to know what the publish date is. All you have to do is look at the art and go, oh yeah, that was the 90s, because they all seem to be the same sort of overblown style and
I'm glad I missed it then.
Oh yeah,
I like having variety in my art.
I didn't collect a whole lot of comics in the 90s. I was mostly into the Vertigo stuff at that time. I didn't get a lot of superhero stuff, but I still, you know, I got a few things over the years, and it was just awful. Not you know, not everything was awful. I mean, there's some good stuff still coming out, but just in general, it's like, oh, I cannot wait for this art stuff to die down, and let's go back. And then of course the pendulum swung the other way, and then, you know, writers were back in telling trying to tell good stories, and they bring in different artists, you know. So it was nice that we got more of a balance there, I think.
Yeah.
And I think we're still in there. I think now is where we have the good balance. You got these really good writers out there. You got really great artists, and they're trying to pair them up to do the right kind of project.
Well, and I think the companies are, well, I don't know if all the companies, they seem to be more open to doing things a little differently. So not everything has the same look.
Well, see that.
Oh, it's a superhero title. Therefore, it's got to look like. That doesn't seem to be the case so much anymore, and it's refreshing. Even if it's art that I don't like, knocks my socks off. The fact that it's a little different than the other title I'm looking at makes a huge difference to me. Anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting too. You know, going back to Image, it was because of that explosion in the 90s. You know, remember what is commonly referred to as the speculator market.
Oh, that was horrible.
Oh God. So because of that, we get what we have today.
Yeah.
You know, we had to go through that. Actually,
but didn't that kill comics?
To a certain degree.
I mean, to this day, aren't comic sales the way they are because of all that?
Yes, exactly. That big bubble. You know, we had a lot of big bubbles in the 90s. You remember?
Right. I was just reading somewhere. We're talking about the fact that, you know, back in the day, comic sales, that Jim Lee on X-Men was selling millions of copies, and now really successful titles, they break 100,000.
100,000. That's right. That's a successful comic.
How could there be that? So is that because of the speculators? I mean, is that everybody buying 3 issues of something because they think they're going to be able to sell them down the road for something else?
Yeah, in part, I think.
Or there really just that many comic book collectors back then there aren't now. Or is everyone stealing it online because you can get it all online for free somewhere? I hear.
I think you've summed it up perfectly.
All that stuff. Huh?
It's all that stuff. Yeah, in fact, that period of the 90s, the mid to late 90s, some people refer to it. I'm looking at Wikipedia, the modern age of comic books. They refer to it as the dark age of comics. So I can see
dark
that. As like the Dark Ages.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there were a lot of dark comics coming out at that time, but yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But yeah, probably is. That's probably a good description for it. Like I said, I think I'm glad I missed it. I haven't been too excited to go back and collect things that came out during that time.
No, me either.
I mean, I don't know.
In fact, like I said, I know I collected a bunch of Vertigo stuff. I was getting Sandman and
right.
The Books of Magic and a bunch. They had a bunch of limited series all during that time.
Uh-huh.
I cannot tell you what other kind of comics I was reading. Any superhero?
Was it Nightwing out during that time?
I'm sure it was. And how much I love Nightwing, so I was getting that. But it was like I can't think of anything in particular that impressed me enough to recall about the superhero comics at that time. I'm sure if I really sat down and thought about it, I could come up with something. But
and I'm sure there are other people that's when they first started collecting their comics was in the 90s, and they probably think that that's great, and they think that we're a bunch of jerks for saying that it potentially wasn't. And I'm saying it's potentially wasn't because obviously I wasn't actually collecting them. I'm just saying that when I go and look at comics, there isn't anything during that era that seems to excite me, or I hear anybody talking about, oh my gosh, this during that time that excited them enough for me to go and look at it.
Well, okay.
Whereas of course I hold dearly the, 84, 85 through, 88 as dear and fond comic book time for me. So. Right.
Well, exactly right. So when people start getting into comics, collecting whatever, that initial time period is always, everybody. I think most people look at that as a very special time, right?
Sure, except the fact I think we can be fortunate in saying some of the stuff that came out during that initial heyday of comic book collecting for us is still stuff that everyone considers significant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even if you didn't start collecting until now, that's the stuff everyone will refer you back to. Those Watchmen's, those Dark Knights, that as being pivotal stuff that changed comics the way they are.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Or maybe that's just me being a comic snot.
No, I think you're right. Other people I listen to on podcasts and whatnot, that have talked about this subject, say the same thing. They look back in the mid to late 80s as this kind of creative renaissance to some degree in comics, and then of course the 90s hit, and that's also a creative renaissance in a way, but it kind of fell apart.
Yeah.
In the mid to late 90s, and then we got the crash from the bubble, and then the 2000s was rebuilding comics to a certain degree, and although we've never gotten back to the 90s era sales.
And they won't.
No, they won't. And now we have digital comics.
Damn them. I still have digital comics I haven't read yet. That I bought back when they had that sale on Batman. That's been 6, 7, 8 months ago.
Really?
Yep, and I still haven't read them all.
Okay. Why not? What's your objection to digital?
Because sitting in front of my computer reading a comic just isn't that much fun.
Oh, why not? Why isn't that fun? You got the art, you got the story here. It's right in front of you, a nice, clear, crisp pixels.
Sure.
What's the difference?
I don't know. I can't 100% put my finger on it. It's just not as comfortable as being able to carry my comic book wherever I want to go, read it wherever I want to read it at. And yeah, I know you're going to tell me I can drag around the mobile thing, but I'm not going to pay, that kind of money for for a device that all I'm doing is reading comic books on it.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. Well, set the money aside for a second. Let's say I give you an iPad.
Uh-huh.
And you can read the comics on the iPad. I hear now. I've not done it myself, but I hear people who have them and do this, that the reading experience, of course, obviously physically is different, but the iPad itself, the dimensions of the iPad, is very close to a modern comic book page.
No, it's not. But whatever.
Okay, we might lose a few inches.
Yeah.
Right, from height-wise, but it's very close. It's close enough, let's say. So you could take it with you. You can go to another room and read a comic. You can take it with you, whatever, and you can have a bunch of comics on there that you can take with you, like on a trip or something. How is that not a good way to read comics?
It just doesn't. It doesn't have the. It doesn't have the feel that I like of reading comics.
You're old. You're
Yes,
an old man.
You're right. I am. I've got gray hair on my chin and on my temples, no doubt about it. But it doesn't have the personality. It doesn't have the texture of reading an actual comic book does to me.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
I don't have to stare at a bright light, which is what you have to do reading. Now, okay, I'll say this. If for some reason, like the Kindle, which is completely different in how it puts out its information, if it were to get bigger and go in color, it might be tempting, maybe.
Why the Kindle and not the iPad?
The Kindle's not backlit like the like the iPad and the Nook and all that kind of stuff is. I don't like staring at a screen. I can stare at a screen just fine for hours on end if I'm playing video games.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond that, I don't like staring at a screen.
Yeah,
I don't like staring at this. I don't like pushing a button to flip a page, and I know that on the iPad supposedly you can use your finger. I don't know if you can use your finger or not to flip a page.
I think you can, yeah.
With the comic book app, okay, I wasn't sure. Well, I know of reading some of their papers, they come that way, but I wasn't sure if it came that way.
Well,
Whereas now my desktop, I push a button to make it.
I think at least the Comixology app is like that. I don't know what other apps there are for comics.
It impressed me so much right offhand. I can't remember what a 2-page spread looks like. If it actually shows me a 2-page spread, I'll have to open it up and look and see because I can't remember.
Oh, the digital comics you got? Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I have to look at one page at a time, which, like I said, I can't remember off the top of my head. Then that's no fun either.
Yeah, you're right. The 2-page spread is not good.
There's enough comics that I like the 2-page spreads in. And if you can't look at those 2-page spreads large, then you're missing something, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
But there you go. Now, I love the fact. I mean, the price point would also have to be different. The reason I bought those Batman titles is because they were all 99 cents. So I could spend $30 and have 30 plus odd titles that I wasn't able to pick up otherwise.
You know what's really funny?
Hmm?
I'm getting echo now from your microphone. What's funny here is that your objection to digital comics. You've actually purchased digital comics. I have not.
Oh, boo. You have no opinion then.
Now,
don't call me old.
Now, I have, but I've gotten some free ones on Comixology, and I read them. Actually, I don't read them on my screen, my desktop screen. I actually read them on my Android phone, which itty bitty screen for. Right. It's not a good reading experience. I agree with you.
Yeah. See, I have an iTouch, and I downloaded right after I got the iTouch. I downloaded Umbrella Academy, which I've never read. Got issue number 1. Entertaining, but really annoying to have to look at panel by panel. Because I think there's something to be said by opening up a comic book and looking at the entire page. Obviously, I read it panel by panel, but the way the panels are set on the page matter, don't they? If they don't, we're taking out part of the craft and art of what a comic book looks like.
Well, see, I was just going to say that because when you said I read panel by panel, do you really? I don't. Obviously I do to a certain degree, but I'm taking in the whole page as I'm reading the panel.
Yeah.
And so I kind of, my eye skips ahead, but I do that when I read too.
Wow.
Just a prose book, I'll be reading the top of the page and I'll be scanning down below as I'm reading. So, but
So
that's,
you spoil it for yourself, huh?
I do actually. But so I'm taking in the whole page at the same time I'm focusing on that one panel. You know, to a certain degree. I'm not like a super reader or anything. I can't tell you what I'm looking at exactly if I had to, right? I'm just kind of taking in the whole image and then I'm reading the specific panels. But
sure. Well, and especially the comic book, it's visual. It's supposed to be that way, in my opinion. It's supposed to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the panel and page layout matters. It helps tell the story, doesn't it? It helps create a pace of what's happening and draws your eye to what's most important if it's done right, and doesn't make it boring. But if you're looking at it literally panel by panel, you can't see anything else. It all looks the same, doesn't it? After a while.
Well, I think it deters your enjoyment of the story. Reading it that way, I don't like it. I don't like reading the comics on my phone, that small screen.
Yeah. No.
Which is why I downloaded like I don't know, close to 20, maybe a couple dozen, and they're still sitting there. I've yet to really read them because I don't enjoy the experience on that small of a screen. But I think I might like, you know, something like an iPad or a Kindle or whatever, you know, a bigger screen, plus being able to take those comics with me if I'm going on a trip or something. That'd be nice. But then again, I have this problem with digital copies, just like my music collection. You know, I have my CDs, and I put them on my computer, and I've taken the MP3 files and I put them on my little MP3 device, and I take that with me. But I will not. My daughter does this. I will not just buy like a whole album of an artist and as an MP3 thing.
We're materialist.
We are, yeah.
You got to have the real thing.
I can't get over the fact that
right.
that if I had this MP3 thing, what happens if my hard drive fails?
Right.
You know, I have backups, but that's you know.
That's how I am with, you know, well, yes and no. My understanding is that even if I lose them, I can still go to Cosmicology, and if they're there, I purchased them. They're mine. Right?
That's I get. Yeah, I assume that's true. I know that when like the online music stores started, you couldn't do that. I don't know if you can now, where you could just re-download them. But
my understanding is that you know that they tweeted me and corrected me once when I said, "Oh my gosh, what happens if this?" And they told me, "Oh no.
Oh, damage control.
Oh yeah. Well, sure. I don't blame them. You always have them, because certainly that did weigh on my thing, because basically I bought those Batman because I was missing the very beginning of Grant Morrison's starting his run on Batman. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to pick up those right away because I was impatiently waiting to read them now. So they had a sale, so I picked those up to read those. But that was one of my questions as I was purchasing it was, you know, do I actually own these things? And if I lose them off my computer, are they still there somewhere, or are they gone? Which in some ways makes them more valuable if they're actually on a database somewhere, because obviously if I had a fire at my house and it burnt my comic collection down, heaven forbid, there's no way I'd be able to replace it.
Yeah.
Even if I have a dollar value, realistically, we all know there's no way we're going to replace it.
Nope, that's for sure. You're right. It's just one of those what am I trying to think of? It's just one of those concepts in my head. You know, the physical copy is the master copy, and I got to have that, whether it's a comic or a CD or whatever. But you're right. You know, you have a fire, God forbid, and all that stuff is gone. Whereas if you have electronic versions and an online backup of some sort, you know, at least you have that. But yes,
I can't trade digital comics though either. I can't trade digital comics. I can't loan you my digital comics. There's all that too.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, I mean, back in the day, I read a lot of your comics that I don't own, and I'll be
and vice versa.
about something, whatever. And I'll go, oh, I remember that story, and I'll go to look for it, and I don't own it. And then it occurs to me, oh, I never owned it. I read yours, which
Yeah.
I don't know. Then there's that whole stealing thing. We get into that whole, people putting comic books out on the internet for everybody to read and whatnot, which I don't agree with. But obviously, I guess, reading your comics is to some degree that,
Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up. Actually, there was a discussion about this very thing on the Comic Geek Speak podcast, and one of the guys on there, Brian Deemer, he has interesting ideas about many things, and this was one of them. He brought this up, and it caused like a big discussion thread on their forum.
Uh-huh.
And when I heard it, I was like, this guy is just crazy, because he's saying that the whole back issue model of comics, going and buying back issues is we shouldn't be doing it because it takes money away from the creators. And then they started talking about, well, what about, I buy a comic and I give it to you to read. That's the same thing to him, is that because I've given it to you to read, then the creator isn't getting his cut of the sale of the comic. And then it also ties into the whole, digitizing comics and putting them out there for people to read. They're cutting into the sales. I mean, that's really what the whole copyright and ownership issue aside, it really comes down to someone's giving you something for free that you should be buying, right?
Yeah, I suppose. I don't 100% agree with.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I don't.
With that whole concept. I mean, because part of the idea of back issues, like from a retail standpoint, and selling those, you have to do something that's going to help keep your retailer selling your product, right?
Mm-hmm.
And back issues is one of the ways to do that. Yeah, you're right. Single issues, the creator's not getting anything for that. Once it's being resold, however many times. That is true, but that's that way with everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything.
Right. So
used anything is that way.
Right.
I mean, that's just the same as if I donate something to Goodwill and somebody else buys it there. The people who manufactured it in the first place obviously aren't getting a second sale on the thing.
That's right. So that whole part of the argument, I think, is moot.
Yeah.
I don't think it has any bearing at all.
Yeah.
But as far as like us sharing comics as we used to do, and actually we still do that with trades, right?
Sure.
It's still my copy. You're just borrowing it. I get it back.
Right.
It's not like you somehow get another copy of it and breaking copyright.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. That's it's kind of a sticky thing. But I hate pirates. The passion. I do. I think that, I've never ever downloaded anything that I hadn't purchased, and I think it's pretty criminal to rob creators of it. And I know people will say, well, if I wouldn't have downloaded that one copy, I wouldn't have known how good this was, and now I'm buying X number of issues or whatever. I went back and bought the whole thing or whatever. Well, you should have just spent the $2 or $3 and bought the single issue that got you inspired in the first place, and then went back and purchased everything.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't risk those couple bucks, then whatever. I don't know. That to me that seems a pretty weak excuse. And I know certain people that will probably listen to this and they'll throw a fit when they hear that. So.
Really, you think so?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, besides the criminals that are actually doing it.
Me and if they choose to listen to this, yes, they will have a fit.
Really?
Yep.
We'll have to talk about this offline. Only because I'm curious.
Yeah.
Okay. So what? We are now an hour and 20 minutes into talking about stuff.
Uh-huh.
So we should probably wrap it up here pretty soon. But
okay.
I want to ask you a few more questions. So what right now? What are you reading? What not your entire list, but what's like your your favorite top 3 or 5 things that you're reading right now?
Secret Six is probably my favorite comic right now. Guaranteed, when it comes in, it's the first thing I read, and I read it probably within minutes of opening up my box of comics. Secret Six. Besides Secret Six, The Sixth Gun is another one that I read almost immediately.
You never talk about this on Twitter or anywhere else.
Never ever talk about that. I love that comic. I like Secret Six too. I think Secret Six has got a much bigger fan base, so I don't feel like I need to beat the drum quite so hard with that. But I think people are foolish to be missing out on The Sixth Gun. I just think it's a great comic.
It definitely has a really cool concept.
Yep. And I like the pace of it. It never feels slow. I never read along and go, when are we getting to something? What's the point of this? It all seems relevant to the story. It's appropriate pretty much for everybody to read. I'm excited about that comic book, and I push it as much as I can everywhere I can. So,
I'm sure Oni Press appreciates that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, like I said, the last comic convention I was at, I was probably selling it harder than they were. They were pretty amused by the fact that I was there. Their whole thing was no, he is not an employee of ours. No, he's not getting any money from us. But,
Did they actually say that?
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh wow. So what? So you were at the Oni booth at Emerald City.
Yeah.
And people were coming by looking at stuff.
This one guy came up. He goes, "Hey, I don't really know Oni Press. What's good from Oni Press, and why would I be excited about it?"
And Travis jumps in front of him, shakes him by the shoulders, and says, "Read Sixth Gun."
Awful close to that. The lead editor, he was there, and he started to go, "Well," and I interrupted him, and I go, "The book you have to buy is this book." And they're giving you a money back guarantee because I know there's no way you're going to give the book back after you buy it, the first trade. And if you give it back or think it's not worth it, you're crazy and you don't know what good comics are.
Oh, you got to be careful.
And the lead editor shrugged his shoulders and went, "Well, I can't say much more than that." and I pushed a few more while I was there.
Well, he didn't turn to you and say, "Would you like a job?"
No, unfortunately, he didn't.
He should have.
I'm hoping that if I ever actually write that comic book story and whatnot, that'll be part of my end. I helped sell you a lot of so you should help me publish this.
Oh yeah,
right?
There you go.
Yeah, I like that publishing company anyway. They publish their stuff I like too. So
it's certainly put them on my map.
Yeah,
because I knew of Oni Press and I've looked at stuff, but I never got interested in anything until this title. So
yeah.
So that's 2.
Birds of Prey. It's been kind of shaky up until now. Now they've got supposedly a ongoing artist. The first book that he's on, issue 12, is just awesome. I won't talk about it because I know you haven't read it yet.
Oh, Jesus Saiz, yes.
Oh man, it just makes the comic so much better. Just the consistency, of it and whatnot.
Yeah.
And Gail Simone has brought a character over that she used in The Secret Six.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I won't say much more because it's
okay.
But it's good.
I will read that.
It's going to be wow.
Well, I remember seeing Jesus Saiz's work on Brave and the Bold from a couple of years ago.
Right.
And thought, man, they need to get this guy on a major book because he is awesome.
Yeah. His work has gotten, a lot better in the last couple of years.
Really?
If I remember correctly, he was on, and I'm probably after I say this, I'll be wrong. He was doing Manhunter for a while.
Oh.
And it was a darker comic, and the art was darker on it and stuff. I'm not sure how to describe it. It wasn't as clear as what it is now, as what his work is now. It was a little muddier. It wasn't bad, but I like it better now. Yeah.
I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, it looks as good as I remember from his Brave and the Bold work. I'm not sure if it's his pencils or if it's the inker that makes it look a little different. But yeah, it looks very nice. Who is inking that book?
Which?
Birds of Prey.
Birds of Prey now.
Oh, it's him.
Right. He does all the
He
art.
does. Oh, that's
He does all
nice.
the art. So the only difference would be is the colorist.
Yep.
Who's been coloring all of the Birds of Prey books?
Oh, I don't know.
No, she has.
Oh, she had. Nye Rufino?
Yeah.
Nye Rufino?
Yeah.
Okay.
I talked with her at the Emerald City Comic Con.
Oh.
Yeah. Because I was curious if she was, because I know she had done the coloring for all of the stuff, and what it was like for her to color so much different types of stuff, which she didn't seem to think was that big a deal. So.
You know what? I've been paying a lot more attention to color artists and the coloring of comic books in general, and I think it's so vastly improved in the last, I don't know, decade.
It's digital for you, I think.
Well, probably, but
well,
everything looks
now,
so good.
Well, yeah. And the other thing is there's a lot less inking. Doesn't always make the shadowing now. They can do much more texture with color than what they used to.
That's
from
right.
back in the day. And it makes a big difference, I think, in the comic and the way the comic looks.
So do you think maybe because like I just said, Jesus Saiz is the artist, and he does inks and pencils, and Fraser Irving from Zombie is also
does everything,
doing his own. I think he does the coloring too.
Yeah, he does everything.
But maybe the improved color artistry in comics is making or paving the way for more artists to do their own, everything from pencils to inking. The more of the finished product than just giving someone pencils and someone inks it and then someone gives that to the color artist.
I certainly think that those who work totally digitally probably are most of the case. Because all it takes to ink in some cases to ink digitally is to push a button, and it goes from being a fine faded line to a dark line. So I think that to some degree that can remove the inker. I know some inkers have talked about the fact that theirs is a dying art.
Well, that's kind of what I was getting at. I'm wondering if inkers are going to be becoming a rare
maybe in 20
person
years,
working in comics.
Maybe in 20 years, there's still enough people who do work on paper that there'll be inkers. And until those artists get so old that they can't do art anymore, do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's always going to be inkers.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So
Yeah, 20 years is probably a good time frame for a big change.
Well, that gives those people who are 60 now until they're 80. And I would think by then maybe they aren't going to be doing so much comic book art. Of course, some of them are moved over, digitally too. So, I don't know.
Well, we got a bunch of what I refer to as the old guard doing those DC retrospectives.
Yawn, yeah.
I'm looking forward to some of them.
Okay, I guess this is for me. If I want to go back and read those old comics in that old style, I got lots of boxes of them, and I know I can, probably find a somewhat local comic book store that's got lots of back issues that I could buy. Whatever. I don't know. It seems to me a lot of energy being spent on
nostalgia,
on not moving forward.
Yeah, nostalgia.
Right. Which DC has too much of right now.
I would agree with that, but
Anything
at the same time,
canceled, everything old is just being.
Yeah, that's true.
Up.
Yeah, I agree with you on that point. But I like that old stuff. I like to see what Jose Luis Garcia Lopez.
I look forward to talking to you about how disappointed you are in these comics.
Oh, that's going to be great. I can't wait for that conversation. And I'm sure you're right. I'm sure I'll be disappointed. I'm looking at this stuff with rose-colored glasses. Yep. And like I say, Garcia Lopez on art, I loved his stuff back in the 70s. He did a lot of the DC Comics Present stuff. Mm-hmm. I just think he's one of the more underrated artists in comics. So I'm looking forward to that and some other things. Some of the writers, Denny O'Neil coming back to do some stuff. I loved his stuff.
Denny O'Neil. Let's talk about that for a second. What was that Batman title you picked up? Just recently that he was doing, and we all thought, oh, Denny O'Neil on Batman again. That's going to be awesome. What was that miniseries?
I don't know.
You don't remember? Just came out. I don't think you collected the whole thing. I know I didn't get it because I was thinking about getting it.
Are you referring to Neil Adams on Batman Odyssey?
Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, yeah.
Take it back.
See,
Okay.
you're right. You see, that's a perfect example because
Well,
love Neil Adams stuff back from in the 70s and 80s, but
yeah.
this stuff, not so much. But at the same time, it was the writing of the story that really turned me off as opposed to the art.
Okay.
So it was him writing that story. It's like, oh, this is not very good. So yeah, I see your point, and I will probably agree with you 97%.
Well, I just don't see why we couldn't have paid those guys to do something new.
With
somebody new.
But it is new. This is new stuff. It's not reprints. It's just done in a different style.
Okay, so done in a different style. Is it telling new stories? I mean, I'm not saying new. I don't mean like a story we haven't heard before. But is it telling us now stories, or is it going back and telling us stories that happened back in the 70s or 80s or 90s?
Yes, I believe that's the case. It's
not a new story. It may be a new story, but it's not.
it's not a new story, but it's a new story.
They're going to add some bitter piece to something that I guarantee is somebody's not going to be happy with.
You're probably right.
Just like that JMS story where Wonder Woman and Zatanna both know that Barbara's going to get shot and lose the ability to walk.
Right.
Horrible story.
Okay. We should talk about that some other time.
We could spend an hour and a half just talking about that. So.
We should. We could do that. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna ask you one more, maybe two more questions, and then we can end this.
Okay.
Okay. Just real quick. Who's your favorite comic book character?
Man, I don't know.
I know that's a tough one, isn't it?
I mean, that's like favorite this or that. There's lots of characters I like.
So you're not saying Green Arrow immediately.
I definitely have an affinity for Green Arrow. It's always the top of my list of people to say. And why? I don't know. I don't know if I can completely, I'm not 100% excited with the current Green Arrow.
Mm-hmm.
I like Ollie. I like that he has, a lot of the flaws of a common man and whatnot, but still manages to be the hero. But yeah, he's one of my favorites. I like John Constantine. He amuses me too. He's not a superhero, but I do like him.
Are you liking? I've not been reading that comic, but I've been hearing some things about it. Are you liking the whole? Is it Pete Milligan back on the title writing?
Yes, and it rocks.
Okay.
It is so good right now, man. I'm loving it.
I really wish I would have picked up when Milligan started again on that title.
Yeah.
Because as I read, I think they're writing Milligan's writing Constantine as in real time, like he's aging and there's some sort of he's getting married. And,
he is married.
Okay.
He is married.
But it's good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's awesome. Okay. There's some scenes in that book that just they're so great. Currently he's got a thumb back, but he ended up cutting off his thumb a few months ago.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, and there's an artist that has his thumb and uses it as artistic inspiration.
Oh wow!
And he sucks on it.
Oh God!
The severed thumb.
Oh,
it's so awesome. Oh, it's just great. But no, those are great stuff. I'm not. I'll try anything that Milligan writes. For a while, and I'll stick it out for a while because he's always got something good, interesting to say about stuff. But the Hellblazer, I've always liked the character. That's one comic I've been other than the brief time I wasn't collecting comics. I've always collected that comic because I've always liked the character.
So you kept getting that comic through that time period? No, you did not.
I did not. Wanted to, but I did not. But it is a comic that I have. Since issue number 1, I have always collected any time I have been purchasing comics.
Okay.
And I fully intend on going back and picking up those issues at some point.
I'm actually trying to do the same thing because I got issue number 1 as you did back when it was first published, and then I got into Sandman at the same time, and but the Constantine title didn't really interest me all that much. Foolishly, I
Silly
thought.
you, yes.
Yes. So then, as you were reading it and telling me how good it was, and based on stuff I was hearing, I picked it up around issue 50, and then went through a good chunk of it. I think maybe to issue 100 or so, or something like that. But I missed issue 2 through I think 48 or something like that.
Right.
Because I was able to get a few issues before that. But anyway, that's my goal, is to get all those older issues, to get that from number 1 to whatever it was. I ended on 100 or whatever, so I have that big chunk of it, and then I want to start getting the trades of the more recent storylines.
It's good. I enjoy it.
Okay. All right. So final question for you. This is the dreaded one, right?
Probably.
Which comic book character would you most want to date?
Only one?
Oh, okay. You
No.
can have more than one if you want. You swinger.
No. God, yeah, that's it.
You playboy.
All at the same time. Yeah. Man, I don't. That is a hard one. I'm going to say right now, I'm going to say Huntress.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's funny. I thought of her too.
My wife tells me all of the Birds of Prey, but
yeah. But could you imagine going out with Dinah? That'd be intimidating.
they're all intimidating.
Well, that's true. Well, yeah. Helena would be intimidating too.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's funny. I thought of her as well, Huntress, when I was thinking, how would I answer this question?
Yeah.
But I would go with. There are actually two other ones that I thought of as well, and one is Dove. You know my love for that character.
Yeah. I don't know why, but yeah.
Okay. Shut up, man. She's pretty.
Okay. Sure.
And Donna Troy.
Oh yeah.
I have been in love with that character since New Teen Titans back in the 80s. So yeah. Starfire would also be a good choice as well. For obvious reasons, but
sure. So for all the 13-year-old reasons, yeah.
Dick Grayson was a lucky man during that time period. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So wait, so you said Huntress. You said there might be a couple other ones though.
Well, I mean,
besides all of the Birds of Prey.
The Birds of Prey. Yeah. I don't know. I Wonder Woman. I know that's to some degree stereotypical and whatnot.
Sure.
But
I thought of her too.
Except for when she's really awfully written, she's beyond being gorgeous is interesting.
Yes.
I mean, because she obviously comes from a completely different perspective on
everything.
I guess it depends on what I wanted out of the date. You should preface it that way, because then we could get off on all other kinds of things.
Well, now I didn't say hook up with. I said who you most like to date.
Go out.
And I realize that now that I say that, I realize that what does date mean may be different from our generation as opposed to say the kids of my daughter's age.
Right.
Okay, well, Travis, this has been tremendous amounts of fun for me.
It's definitely been entertaining, but me, I can go on forever and ever. So.
Well, and my hope here is that we could do this on a somewhat regular basis, because I know there's lots to talk about, and you have a lot of things to say about various things. So,
yep.
As do I. But mostly I like I love chatting about this stuff with you. So, I hope we can do this again.
Anytime. All
right. So why don't you let's remind the folks who have stuck around this long with us. Tell them again your website, and if you want your Twitter handle, because you post a lot of stuff about comics on there.
Oh yeah. Yes. Once again, my website is Oddfellow's Thoughts, and that is oddfellowsthoughts.wordpress.com, and my Twitter handle, of course, is at the _Gaunt_man. Hook me up anytime, and I'll talk with most people about just about whatever. So.
And you talk to quite a few people over Twitter about comics and stuff. So, they should definitely check you out. And in case people mistype or whatever, I have a link on Longbonk's review to your website as well, so they can access it from there.
Okay.
All right, Travis, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And
talk to you later.
I definitely will do that. Well, there you go. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Remember to visit Longbox Review at longboxreview.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter. It's at longboxreview. You can also email me directly at longboxreview@gmail.com, and we're also on Facebook. All this information can be found on the website. Thanks for listening.